just outside Christchurch. Ooh, an old steamer and a shit ton of containers. So, and here we are being dragged into the berth. Excellent work. Interesting morning in Littleton. We came in a bit early, wasn't getting up at 5 again this morning. Sun's coming up, of course. Really quite pleasant morning. This is off the starboard side. And on the port side, there's the fuel dump depot. There's another cruise ship that seems to be following us. We'll see if they turn up in Dunedin tomorrow. And there's the sea out the front. And what appears to be an old-fashioned coastal steamer down there. Of the sort that would have plied the coast in the late 19th, early 20th centuries. There are the lines of buses getting ready to take pretty much anyone who's going to Christchurch into Christchurch. As they say, there's not a lot in Littleton, but it seems a nice little coastal town anyway. There's the container ship part of the port. Again, very much along the lines of Burnie. Small port's a small port. View above the masses. It seems to be the only viewing point that everyone comes to, but that's Canterbury. The Canterbury Plains, and it's Christchurch out there. Once more into the roses, this time in Christchurch, as opposed to Wellington. Everything is in a state of flux, and that's quite a pretty one. You can see the beds spread out around us. We go for a wander. These are all that variety. Basically reds and pinks. You can see there. Not unattractive. In this next bed we have the yellows. Whoa, except I'm in the sun. Throwing a shade. There you go. A different angle. Quite nice. It's 10:30 or so in the morning. So it's nice morning sunlight on these roses. The temperature is really starting to climb, but you can see the changes over time. You've got spotting and whatnot all over the older ones. Those are some Claude Monet roses. That's the variety. You can see why there's lots of colour there. A little bit of a feature fuchsia bed. Zoom in and you get a close look at the colours, which always amaze me, fuchsias, funniest looking things. Evolution is a magnificent thing, that's all I can say. Known as the bathhouse, it does have that glass house feel about it, eh? There's spraying going on in there apparently, so the masses have been kept out. And apparently it used to have a swimming pool, which is why it's called the bathhouse, and it's just got that water feature at the back. There's a view in from what must be, I guess, the northern end. Be quite warm in there, ideal for your more tropical plants, I guess. Well, it does only appear to be single glazed. which is not ideal for glass houses. An old tree, ficus I think, but don't quote me, but I like the way the feet, well the trunk reaches out like feet at the bottom to claw its way into the soil and hang on. And for some reason considered essential for colonists coming from the United Kingdom. Bloody agapanthus. And nothing but a weed. But everyone seems to love them. The edge of a volcanic caldera, I think the phrase is the lip of the area around Port Lyttelton. Like we're starting to build up a head of steam. Not that we do that anymore on a diesel machine, but you know what I mean. Finished shore parties are now back by 4:30, it's now after that. Apparently we're going to pull out at 5. So we might get some footage of us leaving. And this is the port we will be leaving. You've got the fuel depot there. It's the port of Lyttelton, which is the port for Christchurch. Place that's still apparently deeply traumatised, funnily enough, by the earthquakes that happened in 2010 and 2011. 7.2 the first one, and then a 6 point something the second one, 5 months later, and it was the second one that did the damage. Everything had been weakened by the first, I guess. The place is slowly rebuilding in Christchurch. Lyttelton seems to have bounced back fairly quickly, but then it's a commercial hub. You see over there, there's the timber for wood chips. It's all we seem to do. Once you get below a certain latitude, there's piles of them in Burnie. There was lots in Wellington, and there's an awful lot over there in Lyttelton. So we'll play it by ear, roll with the punches, see how long it takes us to get out of town. We're heading off to Dunedin overnight. We've got a tour of a castle, so that'll be an upcoming video. There's something's odd about New Zealand. It's almost the same but completely different, and yet so much is familiar. It's taken me a little while to get my head around it. And then we'll be gone, I guess. Tugboat's getting into position, so it won't be long before we're off, I don't think. Have some videos of Wellington and 3 walks around Burnie, uploading as we speak. It's not too bad here. There's the seagulls. It's very strange not to have the boat rocking while we're in port. The legs are still adjusting for the rolls we've been having, which aren't particularly heavy, but they're consistent. We'll see what happens when we hit the east coast and go off and have a look at Fjordland. I'm really looking forward to some footage from there. I hope you are too. We're on both the port side of the vessel and the port beside us. Here comes another tug coming into position, so it can't be long now, although we're still hooked up to the dock, so who knows. Got the port people down there, Lyttelton Port Commission, I guess. It's getting ready to assist with the removal of the vessel from the port. Tugs moving fairly quickly. Not that they do much tugging these days, they seem to be more pushers. But we'll see what happens. It'll leave in about 10 minutes, according to the timetable. But everything's a little bit flexible, I guess. Another cruise ship across the way there that seems to be following us. It came into Wellington just after we berthed, came into Lyttelton just after we berthed. So I imagine they'll be leaving after us. First in, first out. but who's to know what the rules are? It's, maritime law can be a little bit, what's the word I'm after? Arcane, I think is the word I'm looking for. Got a container ship up there, 16 containers wide, there's at least I think 7 or 8 high at the back anyway, or the stern I think is a technical term. But, not a lot goes on those except that they move stuff, a lot of it very quickly, relatively speaking, and compared to air transport, relatively inexpensively. One vehicle down there with a few people that will be unhooking from that end. There's another vehicle up there from the dock that comes out, and they'll be unhooking the lines further up. Wander down to our berth, our cabin rather, stateroom as they like to call it, and film it from there. It'll be a bit closer and a bit easier to see. The buffet getting ready for the evening meal. We're down in the restaurant where we have people waiting on us, which is a little bit nicer in somewhat smaller proportions, because you could actually eat yourself into a grave without too much. Now leaving level 9 and walking down the stairs to level 6. Down on level 6, and we have an even numbered cabin, so let's get on with it. Now this is length of the ship companionway. It looks a bit like one of those reflecting mirrors in upon themselves, except we're not in it. It's just a long channel. And we go back this way to our room. The gangplanks have been removed. We're just waiting for the lines to be removed. A couple of them have gone slack, and the shore staff are going along to unhook them from the bollards. So fairly big cross sections of rope there. I don't know if they're technically called a rope. They might well be, because they're bigger than 2 inches, I would imagine, in diameter. See that line's being winched in. I'm going to remove the top one. It'll get retracted into the vessel, and away we go. See how there's the other one now being wound in. Well, things are getting serious. They're putting out witches' hats, which apparently is a big thing. But, levels of safety have changed since my great-grandfather's days. 2 of them were sea captains and the other 2 were wharfies, so either side of the dock. But they're definitely being retracted fairly quickly. We'll see what happens when they release the other 2. See from the windsock there behind the gentleman, the weather is fairly steady without being terrifyingly hard. And there goes the second last line. Port staff are removing the connection to the bollard. That'll start being, you go, the last line is being taken in, second last line rather. It's only a matter of time before the final line is removed and we'll be away. Still some tension on that final line from bollard number 27. Everything's numbered, everything's shipshape. And there it goes. The tension's gone. And so too has the double line. Always good to have a redundancy in case one snaps. And just waiting for the vessel to start winching it back. And then I guess we'll be free to go under the control of the tugs and the pilot. And there it goes. And drawn back in. A routine I think they've done a few times. Got an announcement from the captain saying everyone's back on board. There's an officer on the bridge and a pilot as well. So I guess hang on and get ready for liftoff. They have at least one vessel a day coming in for this week, so it's a fairly busy time for them in Middleton, and the tour's running out of Christchurch. Used to be like that in Burnie, but they put the port fees up, and so now it's only down to about 20 or 30 a year. They have over 100 here. You can hear the engine starting to kick in, the thruster powering away. We should be moving in a minute now. You can see down there the weight from the thrusters, and feel that we're now underway. And driven away from the port, leaving quite a weight there coming off the thrusters. Lots of seagulls around looking for scraps and whatnot that might get thrown up with the weight. You can see bits of the sea floor is being disturbed. There's lots of dirt and dust and things in the water. And what appears to be a bit of some sort of ferry or pleasure craft coming in. It is a very busy, continually working port, this one. Not allowed to actually walk off the port. You have to be driven in and out. While there's lots of birds hanging around the wake there, they don't appear to be diving down to retrieving anything. Maybe it's just force of habit. Certainly moving with some rapidity, those birds. We now appear to be getting ready to make way forward. Before we turn, there we go, we're moving. You can see that as the dock moves to our left. Or towards the aft. And the young fellas that were tying up unloosening the lines have gone home, or maybe over to the other berth for the other cruise ship to leave in a little while. But some very attractive birds, just sitting on the wind. Lots of seagulls, maybe some terns. I think that's what those ones with the black across the wings are called. If you know different, please leave a comment below, because I'd love to know what they're called. I saw one a day out from our first port, just skimming across the ocean. Very impressive. Riding the currents of the air. Starting to get a bit of a shudder through the place as the engines do their thing. It's always nice to hear them working. There is no possibility of using sail with these vessels. We don't have to turn around, we're heading out there. It's the gap into the ocean, the South Pacific's ocean. There's that cargo ship, the Maersk Rio India, registered out of Singapore. I think Maersk is the name of the shipping company. Not sure where the Rio and India come from. Maybe they work their way between the two. Coming via New Zealand. We're definitely picking up speed now. heading towards that gap there between north and south heads of Lyttelton Harbour. This is where the original white settlers arrived and settled into those hills before making their way over to the Canterbury Plains and what is now Christchurch. Whoop. Nice view there of the Maersk. Quite a few containers on board. That was there this morning when we got in, so I don't know when that'll be leaving. But in its own time, I guess, you can see the gantries that moved, or cranes that moved the containers on. Quite a complicated procedure. Getting the right ones off, stacking them in the right order for when you get to the next port. Just off in the distance there, you can see the pilot's cutter racing out to get into position to remove the pilot from the vessel once he's got us out. We're now down into dangerous battery position, as in the battery meter's now showing red. So if this dies in the middle, this is all we're going to get. They also import a lot of vehicles, well, all the vehicles in New Zealand. Like Australia, we don't have a car manufacturing plants anymore. Another legacy of the Thatcher-Reagan revolution, or reaction really, took us back to the Gilded Age. It's taken 40 years for us to get here. It's really quite depressing. Still, times are changing. And we're about to go through another reorganisation of geopolitics. Hopefully peacefully, but we will see. And despite everything that humans do, these mountains will stand. They were formed 20 million years ago when a volcano erupted. Pushed out in tears by the looks of things, which is horizontal lava flow rather than explosive upwelling of lava. They were bigger, but they've been glaciated over the years, which is what formed the material that is now the Canterbury Plains. Which is why, given the amount of rain they get in those New Zealand Alps and the water runs down to the plains, it's very damp soil and subsoil. This is why liquefaction happens during an earthquake and mud erupts into people's homes and houses and businesses and whatnot. But we're moving along, starting to pick up quite a bit of speed now, which is nice. Shipping is, after all, a well-developed technology. And it should be okay. Got some John Deere tractors over there that have been imported. And the red ones, I'm not sure what they are. Massey Ferguson maybe. Can't see any Kubotas, but lots of John Deeres. And some passenger vehicles and some light industrial vehicles as well. And there's a big pile of coal over there. It gets transshipped via rail from the west coast and exported, a lot of it, because it is a bit like the coal out of Newcastle in New South Wales. It's a high quality coal, coking level coal, not that brown muck that comes out of Victoria. But, and again, another great pile of wood chips. And you can see, I don't know if you can at the back there, they're spraying a lot of water onto that pile of coal, probably to avoid spontaneous combustion, because it would give off some heat and it would be very, very difficult to put out. I've come close to seeing that happen with a pile of wood chips that had been delivered to a place I was working in the garden on. I came back the next morning and there was steam and smoke rising. You just pull the whole pile apart and it settled down. So rather than get to that point, they're spraying it with water to keep it cool, I suspect. Heading now towards the mouth of the harbour. Still got batteries, so it's okay. Just coming up on a green channel marker. Let you know where the deeper water is. I'm not sure what the draft on this vessel is, but it's certainly not shallow drafted. And that would appear to be channel marker 13. Unlucky for some. It's got its solar panels there for the lights to come on at night. And lots of steps there for ladders and whatnot for people to go on and do maintenance, I guess. Also appears to have radar reflecting cones on it, as I could imagine that it gets quite foggy here some days. You appear to have escaped any possibility of an earthquake in Christchurch today. Tomorrow's the anniversary of the 2011 earthquake, which was the second one that did all the damage to the weakened structures from the 7.2 5-6 months earlier. You can see the seas are starting to build a bit. They're going to get some white tops on the waves. It's not so much a brutal landscape as a hard landscape, which would build hard people, resilient people. So our next stop is Dunedin, which is a Scottish settlement originally, hence the name. Perhaps the most southerly city in New Zealand, I think. But if you know better, again, drop an answer there. Back to the port, receding quickly into the background as we head towards the open sea and the Pacific Ocean. There's another way marker up ahead. I suspect we'll come down to a bit of a slow speed to let the pilot off, and then we'll be in the care of the crew of the vessel. There's that next way marker, number 11. So it must be odd numbers on the port side. Imagine there's corresponding ones over on the starboard with even numbers. Same deal, solar power and radar reflecting structures for foggy trips. Been pretty lucky with the weather. We're doing okay. And you can see the open ocean up there. And the wind is picking up the closer we get to it. There you go. As you look up, you can see the clouds are starting to build as well. Moving with some speed too, I might add. Past the volcanically formed structures, formations I guess rather than structures, and we'll be going out through these heads, turning to starboard or right, heading south down to Dunedin. It's a well-oiled system. I guess I've been doing it for a few years. They do seem to have an obsession with fun and customer happiness. A little bit overdone for mine at times, but there you go. Getting closer to the headland. We'll have a closer look at that as we get nearer. Zoomed in a little bit to see if that helps. Definitely has the feel of sheep country about it. Not sure if you can pick it up there, but it's a definite change in colour in the ocean once you leave the harbour. Different layers of clouds and whatnot. The sun will be going down behind us in a few hours' time. There's another way marker, number 9 this time. So we're definitely getting shorter, lower in the numbers, and further out we go. Let's see, number 7 I'm guessing is the next one up. So we may have to go a fair way out before we turn to starboard and head south. Heading up on yet another channel marker. Turns out the battery warning light comes on when there's 20% to go. So I don't think we're going to have too much trouble getting this trip out into the ocean. Fully recorded. Not sure if we're picking that up or not, but there's another vessel sort of off to the right of the headland, out towards the horizon. Would imagine there's people coming constantly in and out of the port. It is a working port. And coming up behind us is the pilot boat, which always makes me think of the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. And the pilot came out to greet the old fellow when he got back. She's certainly rolling a bit down there, but she's a smaller vessel. And I guess they know what they're doing, and they seem to love that sort of stuff. Here we are on marker number 5. Not long now before we're out fully, while pilot's cutter bounces around. Looks like it's about to tack across behind us and then pick up the pilot on the starboard side. And you can see the changes in colour, probably because there's no cloud cover out there, which is odd. Why it would stop at the land is beyond me. Probably just a coincidence. And then off there is another shot of that ship, just sitting at rest, waiting for their turn to come into port. We're starting to get up more of a rock ourselves now as we get closer to the open seas. And there you can see, I guess that's North Head, or the northern side of the port. Tree lines up there, so probably a farm up there somewhere. Be a nice place to grow up, I reckon. Way marker number 3 is off the bow, but we're approaching quickly enough. You can see we're starting to clear ahead. Our cabin's towards the aft of the vessel, so there's not much behind us to get out into the open seas. The sun's starting to break through. Quite a glorious afternoon. Bit of a bite to the breeze, but we are a long way south, so almost got to expect that. View back to see how far we've come. And coming up on way marker, I think it'll be number 3, unless I've missed one along the way. And indeed it is number 3. I guess there'd only be one more, and then we're free of the coast and any possible hazards for the hull. I would imagine there would have been a lot of shipwrecks along here in the old days. And just a view back to the cliff faces. Can't see a building up there. You can normally track European settlement by imported tree lines. Farewell number 3. And off the headland there in the background you can see up into Christchurch where the waterway there is way shallower and not suitable for larger vessels. Good for sailing, but that's about it. There's that other vessel still standing out. And then there's a second one off to its front. And how the wind is picking up. And the noise of the sea is getting quite impressive. And I'm down to 4% of battery. So we might call that stumps. And pick it up again when we're coming into Dunedin in the morning.